This is the Brick Commentary Central. You're listening to the BCC Podcast. It is Wednesday, October 5th of 2022, and you're listening to a special midweek episode of the BCC Podcast. I'm LQ, and joining me today is only Maluris.
Yeah, because I think I'm the only other one who's watched.
Yep, you are. Everyone else did not want to VPN. So, but yes, I guess that should be the first warning. Probably won't get into spoilers for just a couple of minutes here, though I doubt you clicked on this video if you care about them. But
you know, sometimes YouTube autoplays if you're listening to a whole playlist.
That's
obviously.
True also. So, it is out. It's not out in the US for 5 days for reasons beyond our comprehension. But it is out other places, so we VPN'd into Australia, the home of all pirates, and watched on Netflix there. Yep. And it was a full 18 episodes, which is longer than a lot of seasons overall. Combined with part 1, this was certainly the longest Ninjago season. Though the time between them, they really felt to be different seasons to me.
I'm not sure that they felt like different seasons, and they definitely didn't want to feel like different seasons. It's just a bad release schedule.
Yeah. I mean, at least I did get through these without getting spoilers, so that's good. Oh, and I guess I can start the... Alright. Are you awake, Kevin?
Destruction
Yes,
comes
I'm
from
awake.
the eternal struggle between light
You're not
and
normally
dark.
awake at this time.
I will destroy the
No,
balance.
I'm awake in like 5 minutes usually.
There will be peace in the
Oh, but
dark.
I really wanted to get this out.
The only thing that can
while
destroy
it's
the
still
Overlord is the
fresh.
power of the Oni.
Sunday we watched it, and it's
You're
Wednesday
part
now.
Oni too. You must embrace
Yep.
your Oni
Yeah.
side.
So, and also,
There's that
since I've
darkness
absorbed a
again.
lot of the community
Just
reactions,
like your
found out,
father.
I am nothing like my
they
father.
don't feel the same way about this as I do.
You must embrace anger and then release it.
I guess, first off, let's just talk about our
We are
thoughts
not ready
individually,
for this.
things we thought stood out from the season,
You're
as
trusting
always.
and gullible and
Not
weak.
going to give an
Which is
overall
why you are
recap
bound to
scene by
lose.
scene, because I can assume if you're watching this, you either don't care or you've already watched it yourself.
How does
Basically,
it
though, this was the end of the original series,
feel to have no one left?
and all the turns they expect to do, they go and they fight the Crystal King. Oh yeah, spoilers are starting now. No one dies, and yeah, that's the ending in just a bit. Let's not start with the end. So, trying to remember exactly how it started. I feel like there are some filler episodes this season. It got off to kind of a slow start.
Well, the thing is, that's what I was saying earlier, since how it starts is tied in with more of the part 1 stuff. Like, I feel like if we were watching part 1 of Crystalized, these episodes would be less, like, filler-esque and more just a continuation
You
of,
must embrace your
you know,
Oni
where you
side.
left off.
There's that darkness
Yeah, the
again.
first
So-
episode was
Just
interesting,
like
where
your
they
father.
show
I
how
am
Harumi
nothing
came
like
back,
my
so
father.
she did die.
You must embrace
And then
anger
resurrected
and
by
then
Satan.
release it.
You know,
We are not ready
No,
for
there is this one part later where she's mad at Lloyd
You're
for not
trusting
coming
and
back
gullible
to
and
save her.
weak,
And then,
which
but
is why you
Lloyd
are
is
bound
going
to
through there, but
lose.
what he doesn't make clear is, was she still there? Looking, or she already left that?
How does it feel?
yeah, because, like, what I was thinking is, like,
To have
she's
no one
resurrected,
left.
like, an hour after she dies, and then, like, he looks for her, and it's just like, should look sooner! Like, spent hours of his life just, like, digging away at that. He was already gone.
Yeah, redemption arc for Harumi, which is kind of sloppy towards the end, I think. But overall, it was. Let's just skip ahead so we can get the Harumi stuff out of the way. Towards the end, the Great Devourer is brought up, and that's what makes her turn. A lot of people say that it doesn't feel earned at all, but I mean, that point in particular
destroy the Overlord is the power of the
literally
Oni.
her entire thing
You
is
are part Oni too.
she
You
hates
must
the Great Devourer.
embrace your Oni
So I
side.
think it's pretty easy
There's
to
that
forget, but that's
darkness
why she
again.
hated the ninjas
Just
of the Great
like
Devourer,
your
that's why she loved
father.
Garmadon.
I am
So
nothing
the
like
Great
my
Devourer.
father.
You must embrace anger.
Yeah, I
and then
think,
release
you know,
it.
I think it worked out fine, especially since
Oh, is
We
the
are
trailer
not
audio
ready
on?
for this.
It should not have audio.
so good job. You ruined our audio visual
Yeah, I did.
presentation.
Well, darn, I don't even know how much people got. I almost want to just restart the entire episode at this point.
Yeah. Honestly, but
No, actually, for you live, I'm gonna cut this in post. But for you listening live, we're gonna restart just for the recorded version. So hang in there.
sorry you'll have to revisit everything. This is what we do.
Yep. Be quiet. This is the Brick Commentary Central. You're listening to the BCC podcast. Oops. One more time. This is the Brick. This is the Brick Commentary Central. You're listening to the BCC podcast. It is Wednesday, October 5th of 2022, and you're listening to episode 326 of the BCC podcast. After that brief audio issue, I thought the trailer audio was off, and I apologize for that for those tuning in live. But now you should be able to hear us, and we should actually be able to give our thoughts audibly. This will be a spoiler episode, so if you have not seen it, you might want to go ahead and see it first. I know some of you probably haven't because it is still not out in the US until October 10th for reasons beyond our comprehension. But if you use a VPN, you can do what we did and go and watch it through Australia. This episode of the BCC podcast has been brought to you by ExpressVPN. They didn't pay us, I paid them. All right, yeah, again, I apologize for everyone listening. I should have known better. That's not the first time I forgot to remove the trailer audio from a podcast. But we hadn't discussed too much overall. We were just starting off with the first episode, talking about Harumi's backstory. And we will get to our overall thoughts on the season, other people's thoughts, which are very different than my thoughts, at least when I first watched the season after I saw the community reaction to this. It's not great. And we'll also talk about the ending, and not much about the end of Ninjago overall, even though that will certainly be a part of it here. So yeah, let's again start back up talking about the beginning of the season. We get Harumi's backstory. We find out she did indeed die. And then she was resurrected from hell by Satan. That's kind of messed up, but okay. And then her thing is that she's mad at Lloyd for not coming and trying to find her. Though they do show a clip where Lloyd did try, but it's unclear, was she already resurrected and moved on at that point, or did Lloyd just give up after a couple minutes of searching? Which, I mean, yeah, definitely could be that way. Yeah, that was an interesting episode. yeah, Ninjago brings people back from death a lot. And I know it annoys a lot of people. It annoys me in certain instances too. Not so much here, because some people still do die permanently in Ninjago. It's just rare. Normally it's old people too. Trying to think. Well, we know Moro kind of is. Moro died 3 times over. But he's very clearly permanently dead. Oh, yeah, your audio wasn't on. Luckily, you haven't said... I muted you for the intro. Wow, this is not going well. What did you said so far, Kevin, that people should know about?
Important. Mostly just you were monologuing for the most part.
Yeah, I feel like... Oh, boy, this is why we don't usually do this in the morning.
It's all your fault. You're
All right,
holding us back.
Sombrero Man, let us know if everything finally sounds right. Oh, well, at least we doing better than LEGO did with the release for this season. Alright, so... But yeah, then it goes off, and... I feel like... The next episode's kind of slow. The ninja gets stuck in a subway tunnel and talk about trains for a while. And then we get to the fall.
You know, like, Jay's whole monologue was like, oh, this is a steam-powered, like, vehicle. Oh, the ninja will use, like, Kai's firepower to create steam so that they can use the vehicle. No, that wasn't it.
Yeah.
But
though at least they did actually try to have Cole just move the rocks this time instead of ignoring the powers.
yeah.
Because it annoys me when they do that. Oh, but then, Harumi goes and sends a bunch of exploding bugs to blow up the monastery. It dies again. Which, it doesn't feel very impactful when it was gone for like 7 years. At one point. The monastery was not a huge part of Ninjago for much of its run.
Plus, like, Destiny's Bounty, like, is also another base that often
and it
explodes, and it's
which
just
you already
like,
saw in the
kind of
trailer. So we saw the monastery burning in the trailer, so they don't even try and hide it. It's gonna happen.
a bunch of these things are just kind of like things that you come to expect from the series, honestly.
Which is, I think, a criticism of this season overall is, it's probably exactly what you'd expect from Ninjago.
Yeah, I mean, most of it is, unless it's filler, which in that case, you still expect it, but...
yeah, so they blow up the monastery, and then they say they're going to an old base. I was hoping it would be the Temple of Erejitsu.
It wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
I was hoping it would be Dareth's monastery. It wasn't.
Yeah, instead it was the Samurai X Cave, which of all places LEGO likes to remember the most. I mean, okay. But, yeah, we'll never know what happened to the Temple of Erejitsu. I know Tommy Andresen says he's going to write about in Way of the Departed, but that's just a could-be canon, and also who knows if he'll ever even finish it at this point. Way of the Departed is going to become the Yesterday quest of Ninjago.
Then there was, like, another story, it's Splinter...
Yeah, that one is still going, Splinter in the Blind Man's Eye. I have not read any of that one. I might have more interest in them now that this narrative of Ninjago is over, supposedly.
Also, yeah, that brings up the point. Speaking of canon stories...
Oh, yeah, so, so yeah, the Crystal King goes through the subway tunnel, and actually, there's actually quite a bit before we get to Garmadon, and that's the part that annoyed me, because I wanted to get to Garmadon.
I was just thinking
let's go to
it.
Garmadon. That's the fun stuff. Also, the crystals drain their powers, and the crystal drains energy from vehicles, and the Venge Stone drains elemental powers, rendering them useless for 2 episodes. Alright, so yes, then finally, we go, and this is the best parts of the season, is anything with Garmadon. Garmadon finally returns. And apparently he's been sending Wu newspaper clippings for months, but he forgot to remove the address on them, so they just go and they find him. He's been living with Vinny. Apparently since the moment, basically, that he left in March of the Oni, which, remember the Garmadon comic series, which covers what he did after March of the Oni? Now, it technically could fit in, but the way they structure this episode with what Garmadon's been doing implies that we just saw everything he's done since. That he did not go and do the stuff in the Garmadon comic book, which is very cheap of them to do. If they're advertising this as, oh, this is canon to the Ninjago story, don't just go and ignore it completely. You don't have to specifically reference it in the show, but literally they show him walking off from the monastery, which is in the comic, and Wu doesn't go back to talk to him like he does in the comic.
Yeah, Wu is, like, really, like, freaked out that Garmadon is doing his own thing, living his best life.
But yeah, he's been living with Vinny. Vinny gave him a plant to teach him how to care for things. I mean, Garmadon is really funny in all of this, and just, I like Garmadon a lot. They did a good job building him into a new character here, though they never kind of, they kind of ignore the whole arc where Garmadon was good for a while this season. They kind of just pretend he's always been evil now, which is
the thing.
weird.
Well, I mean, since his resurrection as Oni, that's supposed to take out all his goodness and
yeah, I know,
whatnot.
but they didn't reference. It seems like they'd reference. He was still good once. But that part of him, I guess, is just gone completely, not even out there somewhere. They don't even try and bring it back. It's just
I don't know. I think part of it is the writing of everything too. Like,
Ninjago has a weird issue where it will reference everything, but also not reference certain things.
A certain, like, glaring
Again,
important
there's
thing.
nothing that couldn't be explained away. It's just weird that later we'll get, like, oh, the Great Devourer is name dropped, even though that is way further back in the series, and probably didn't really need to be there for the narrative exactly. But they remember to include that, but not the flashbacks with Garmadon was still a sensei, which they did do in March of the Oni. March of the Oni handled the Lloyd-Garmadon relationship a little bit better, I think, even though it just didn't have the time to flesh it out like this season did.
With that, yeah, I feel like that was more the central focus of that special, was more Lloyd and just Garmadon, rather than everything else going on with that.
Which is weird. Now Lloyd is, like, more angry than ever at Garmadon, even though the last instance they saw of him was him helping them save Ninjago.
Yeah. Lloyd, honestly, it feels almost out of character that he's that mad at Garmadon, especially considering, like, everything he's going through with Harumi at the moment was just like, he wants to redeem her.
Yeah,
he still sees the good in her, even though he's never really seen any good, like, in her before. But it's, like, with Garmadon, yeah, it feels like he's very needlessly frustrated.
I mean, they kind of explained that where Lloyd is kind of projecting things onto him. And so that kind of works, but it's just not written the best. So again, there's things you can explain away overall, but it doesn't do the best job showcasing them.
Yeah. Again, that's
overall,
what I'm
been thinking a lot while going through this. If we combined the strengths of this with March of the Oni, it would have been the perfect finale.
It could have been.
And we'll talk about the end in just a bit, though, because I feel like we could go on a long time about the end. Oh, yes, also, they get the golden suits just randomly when they go to the Samurai X cave. And
then, like, the next episode, it's like, oh, you got gold on your vehicles now because that's what protects you from, like, crystal energy.
Which you just give them the gold suits then, which is, again, something that they have an issue with. Remember, this is all the way back to Possession, where they give them the deep stone suits before they put deep stone in them. Do you remember
Yeah.
that?
I don't remember that, but like I trust you.
Because yeah, you know the deep stone is like the anti-ghost stuff that they make the arrow blades out of.
Yeah.
And then they say they put it in their suits later, but they're the same suits.
They just stuck it on the inside of their suits. That's probably it.
Yeah, it could have made perfect sense because remember in the canon, they get their other new ninja suits like 2 days at most before they get the gold suits. So it's just really weird they just suddenly threw them in. It feels like it wasn't very thought out. So technically there could be a reason for the gold, but they never even state that it is for their suits.
It's just to look cool. That's all.
I mean, they do look cool.
It's to sell more merchandise. That's what it's
And
for.
it does sell more merchandise. I bought the Golden Dragon J-Bike on eBay. I got it for $18.50. Yeah, I do really want the rest of the stuff too.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
But also, we see Garmadon's new Oni form here, and let me see if I can pull that section up in the trailer.
Yeah.
Which, so we get parts of this. The thing is, in the set, we obviously two-armed Garmadon is a thing because he seems to like have learned how also to control his Oni form, which could have also been a point when it comes to Oni Lloyd, but we'll talk about Oni Lloyd in a bit.
Yeah.
I think everyone can agree on the #1 most ball-dropped moment in Ninjago. But, okay, this picture's kind of good. So, we do get the mask in the set and the torso, but we do not get the forearms, and there's no wings in the set, and that's upsetting, because the wings are awesome. And,
I feel like you were more upset about the arms when...
yeah, but no, I figured out their arms, it looks like might be possible to mock by using Resurrected Garmadon 2 arms. And you just gotta swap them out for some purple hands, which I might have extra of, even. But the wings, there's not a good wing piece there to use. So that's upsetting. The video dragon wings could have worked in black, I think. Even though they wouldn't have had the spikes and stuff on them, which are also cool. At least we got the mask. I'm glad we got the mask. But I am upset that we don't have the wings and the forearms.
Yeah.
Especially with how expensive these sets are. They're very, very expensive.
I feel like that's fair. Yeah.
But, no, so they found that the Oni powers can destroy this because the Crystal King has basically only thought about making them so the ninja can't counter them. So he only
Okay, so actually I want to get into this part. The whole Vengestone army, it feels like they are way weaker than the Stone army.
It's true.
And the thing is, like, okay, the Vengestone army was made to counter the ninja because, like, it was Lloyd's golden power that could destroy the Stone
it's not
army.
explicitly stated, but remember, the Stone Army was as well. Remember in Rebooted, they put on Stone Army armor because when the Overlord is using the golden power, they say the Stone Army has, like, properties that actually counter the golden power, the power of creation.
So, like, the Stone Army is basically perfect, and you just have to add Vengestone.
No, the Stone Army had the same issue with after they were introduced, their power dropped off dramatically, very suddenly.
Yeah, but it just feels like there was a lot more power, like, menace to the Stone Army.
Yeah,
like,
no,
that was
certainly.
like, oh, that's an unbeatable, like, army. And this should be, like, the next progression from that. But it's like, it isn't.
Like, they give the words to imply it is, but we never actually seem to see that very well.
Yeah, they seem very easy to destroy after, like, at least after Garmadon does it. Then, like, some vehicles can do it. And
then later, we'll get into the part later, which is actually kind of a problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the army's marching out. Also, there's a zombie apocalypse too. Okay. And Yes, there are some parts in prison here. Fugitives there again. Ronan gets a semi-redemption arc, which is a semi-nice.
Yeah, but it only feels very
Mhm.
semi-redemption. More like he's doing it to save the world so he can steal from it again, not like...
Yeah, which I mean, that's kind of still the same thing as in Possession, but
Yeah, but like it does ignore it's still ignoring most of the
yeah, he doesn't. They
history.
ignores the. It doesn't ignore the history. I think it ignores the personal relationships
Yeah.
because like in Genie season Skybound.
Yeah.
He was very much, he's very willing to turn on the ninja for money, but he still cared about the personal relationships in there. Even though it didn't affect his actions, he still talked about them like he respected them. And he still did do that here, too, to be fair. I don't know, it's just, the island is bad.
Yeah.
It is the worst part of Ninjago.
Island bottom tier Ninjago.
It's true. So, then, yeah, they go to Ninjago City. All the ninja are in car crashes, and they get separated. Wu goes with the paper guys, and I never really liked the paper boys arc. A lot of people like them. I don't. I find them kind of annoying a lot of the times. Nelson is an overrated character.
I thought you loved Nelson.
No, I like the meme. I mean, Nelson as an idea is fine, but I don't like his paper. The emphasis on the newsboys or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's something that the writers thought that they could just, like, pick up every season, basically, and go off from that. But other than that, it's character consistency, which you like to see in Ninjago, but it is kind of just, like, very filler episodes. And they don't tend to do much.
Then we have Return of the Ice Emperor, which I thought they'd do quite a bit more with it. That was kind of a needless callback, honestly.
Yeah, but it is a callback.
Also, this is the one where Hound Dog is the last episode he's in. I did just realize it, just kind of forget about him after this episode, and after Lloyd saves him anyways, and yeah, that's nothing new, so why do you care now? I don't know. He's gone now. Again, that was kind of a filler.
Yeah.
Oh, then Skylar has something to do again, and they find that kid Jake from the Fire chapter. Apparently Jake's an idiot, so they have to go and take him back.
Then, afterwards, Kai finally decides to, like, ask Skylar to be in a relationship, but in the worst way possible.
I'm glad they finally addressed it, though.
And then, yeah, Skylar's mad at him for, like, their on and off status for however long they've been doing
Kai's
things.
excuse at least was kind of legitimate.
Yeah.
Except there is a year. There was a year in between there. Well, his sister did die, though.
Yeah, I do think that the way of addressing it, though, was pretty spot on with how it should have been.
Yeah.
Other than Kai, like, being kind of weird about it.
Well, Kai's always been kind of weird about it.
Yeah.
I appreciated that part. That's one of the things I think that they hit the mark on. Oh, but since we mentioned Nia dying, one thing that they dropped the ball on completely. Boy, did they screw up the Nia thing in Seabound. There was absolutely no payoff to it in the end. They gave Nia her powers back. There are no consequences whatsoever. They really gotta treat their audiences better than that. That was probably one of the worst death fake outs Ninjago's done. Like with Zane's death, there's some more consequences. Like at least he came back and he was different at that point. But with Nia's death, it literally just ends up preserving the status quo. Now, there is a theory going around, I like this theory, that because she's slowly getting them back, though, that she'd eventually end up returning to the sea. They don't hint at that at all, but it is a possibility for, some place where they could have taken the arc that's good. Of course they won't, because it's over now. But it is something. There's a lot of arcs that could be implied by the end, and we'll get to that in the end. So again, it's something that could be redeemed, but that is actually the definitive low point to this season for me. Actually, is how they handled Nia and her death.
Well, the thing is, part 1 definitely just wanted to bring her back, like, for half the story
Which I didn't have a
driving
huge
force,
issue
basically,
with.
but
I don't think it was the best,
But
especially
it
with how
feels
much they
like-
played up the death, but
it wasn't just having her character back alive, because her without the powers was, like, interesting. Like, okay, there's some sacrifice at least, but no, she gets her powers back.
in
And
a matter of
then-
like 3 days, too.
Yeah.
So
One guy had to wait like 2 months for his powers to return fully.
Speaking of things that are just abandoned, remember when they had Nia be able to control ice? That was never brought up again.
Yeah. Yeah, they just really hated that. They brought it up for no reason other than it was an ice season.
Yeah.
That was it.
But yeah, then so Nia eventually goes, and that's like Jay and Nia's arc in this. She goes and uses the whale power, which was like, also if her powers are just barely coming back, that is like one of the last powers she earned. She was at the height of her power, was communicating with the whales. And yet she immediately has that power back, so yeah, not great. So then we have the Kai and Cole we already went through, and then Jay. Also, Cyrus Borg is just in his office the whole time. He didn't open the window and see what's going on, which I found kind of entertaining. Oh,
It was funny, like,
yeah, I remember during the episode, I'm like, wait, did he just not look outside? I was like, oh, nope, he didn't. It's one of the more self-aware moments in Ninjago that I appreciate. Fuji Dove gets one of the core mechs, which is very interesting and makes me think, why didn't they make the core mechs give it a chance to give us minor characters in the show that never appeared in sets otherwise?
But, like, there are certain characters who are very major to the show, who are minor overall, that will never have sets now.
Oh, yeah,
No minifigures.
That was just mentioned in our chat, and I apologize, I don't know how to pronounce the last name. Bence Kovacs mentioned the new ninja that I realized, wow, nothing ever came of that. I wasn't even thinking about that. They're just is crystallized zombie, and they appear at the end. Wow, they just get forgotten.
So, yeah, well, like, the whole point of them was that the mayor just suddenly hated the ninja.
They didn't even use them like after they were crystallized.
kind of
They didn't even.
a-
What if the Overlord had used them like as his personal guard or something, so they could have had this battle against the ninja at the last time? But no, nothing. I had even forgotten they existed at this point.
What if they just died? They could have been, like, the character deaths for, like, what they could have done, they could have teased the death of the ninja. Then it was a new ninja who just died. That's all.
Wow, yeah, that was a completely useless arc, and it again that took up like at least 2 episodes worth of filler given their screen time. Wow, and they didn't even get minifigures. There's no use in including them. Wow. Also, I don't know where this fits in. Esfiera is irredeemably obnoxious. Just like every time she's on screen, it's just not fun. And that's the worst thing.
At least when
Ninjago
she
can
has a
be.
speaking role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some of her action scenes, can be alright, but like, yeah, she's not fun, and she only has future. I guess they tried making a running joke with their revenge thing, but it's just not funny.
Yeah,
I got really
it
sick of
is
seeing her.
cringe.
Zane murders Mr. F. Eventually, when they come, they all come back together at this point around the Paperboy's place, and they're preparing for the final battle. Lloyd and Garmadon go up to fight. Okay, so I think it's time we go into depth on this one. Oni Lloyd. The big thing for this season was the Golden Oni Lloyd. It ended up being completely worthless. Like, he did not
I'm
help at all.
like the fact that it made an appearance is surprising with how short-lived it
I know.
was.
Like, the whole thing is Lloyd's like, oh, I don't want to give in to the Oni power. I don't want to give... And, you know, sure, that makes sense with his character. That he doesn't want to give in to hate and anger and stuff because he doesn't want to become like his dad, because he feels like that betrayal that he feels he doesn't want his friends to feel. Though it's not even expressed the best in the show. It's could have been done better. So at one point, Garmadon fakes
It's
out
more
his death.
because he hates Garmadon
Mhm.
this season than anything else.
Garmadon fakes out his death, which, yeah, okay, I think a real Garmadon death could have been a little bit more impactful here. But also, he does it for 3 minutes just to shoot the Crystal King, and it ends up actually accomplishing nothing. Not 3 minutes, 3 seconds, sorry.
Well, if he had actually used his Oni power, it seems like it would have done something.
Yeah, it would have.
Actually seemed to, have some major
And of course,
effect
this ties
on
into
him.
the dragon powers, which are very rushed, and they I think it would have been better if they did something like the true potential side of things, where it was more of like an inner unlocking of it rather than just accomplishing this very specific set of commands at a very specific time. Though they look pretty cool. And
Yeah, but
also, then, even though they are the power of creation, which is exactly what these Venstone warriors are supposed to counter, they just shatter them now, which shouldn't be able to happen.
yeah, and that comes a point when all the armies start showing up, like
Yeah, okay, so there is this endgame moment here where all the characters from Oliver and Ninjago come in. Actually, I think that's one of the high points. I think it was done very well. Everyone got a little bit of time, though there's some, like, Okino did not get a speaking role, because I guess they didn't want to bring his voice actor in. But, it was nice to see everyone there. I'd have to go back and see if there's anyone they missed, but I don't think so. So we got the Serpentine, Merlopians, what was the kingdom that Cole's girlfriend is from? Shintaro.
It starts with
Shintaro,
a V.
yeah.
No,
No, that's
I
it.
was
It's
off.
Shintaro. And they
No,
all...
I said I was off,
Okay.
not you.
Yeah, and so got all those, got some fights in there, and that was fun. The dragon form is really cool. It was a little bit cringe how they incorporated the Weekend Whip. So Weekend Whip and plants were obviously the true things. I was worried with the Weekend Whip they would have a time travel thing in it, and so thankfully they didn't. But again, it felt so rushed. This is the point where it starts feeling really rushed right at the end here, which is odd because they had 30 episodes.
It feels like they needed a couple more episodes even, just to, like, flesh things out better, because...
Oh yeah, Bricks on Bricks mentioned no elemental masters. That is true. I can see why in story they might be a bit harder to contact.
I mean, Kai's and Nia's parents were there.
Yeah, but not like
Yeah,
Karloff.
but not, yeah.
Has Karloff appeared in Wild Brain animations? I feel like he had.
I don't think so, because I feel like last time he would have appeared would have been, like, March of the Oni, maybe? Or maybe he showed up for, like, Nia's funeral, and that would have been it. I don't know.
Also, Karloff was voiced by Scott McNeil as well, who is the Overlord, so... they wouldn't have had to add another voice actor.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find out...
I feel like they were focused more on their own characters rather than, like, the Will film. I don't think the mailman
Ninjago
showed
Wiki
up.
shows his latest appearance in Lego Brawls. Come on, tell me when his latest appearance in the show was. Nope, yeah, okay, the Elemental Masters have not appeared since March of the Oni. Sad.
Yeah.
Alright, so, yeah, that is sad. I assume they are all off in very far reaches of the world, and that would be the reason to explain it, but still, yeah, I wish they would have included them. So yeah, then the ninja then get all the golden weapons back. And then there's this whole thing where it's like, if you put them together, the power could, it's supposed to have bad things happen, basically, is what has been implied. The only way to do it was, like, forging him into the mega weapon, and only Garmadon had the power to, like, keep it under control at that point. So, but when they do, then it transforms into a giant golden dragon, and it goes and fights the Overlord, and Lloyd is with it, and it beats the Overlord. Hey, that sounds like an oversimplification, but no, it happens that fast.
Yeah.
And that's again where they kind of drop the ball. Again, why can then the dragon form conquer the Overlord when before he shouldn't have been able to, because he made this body specifically to counter the elemental and creation forms.
It's...
See, there's a very easy way to fix this, too. That actually would have made it very impactful. And that is to go for the core idea of what was supposed to be for this season that they didn't do well with, is that balance was supposed to be the key. So what if they actually played into it that Lloyd was right, that he can't just completely give in to the Oni form, because then that will cause him to go down the wrong path, and that's do things he doesn't want to do, but they still need that to defeat the Overlord. So what if he had, like in the set, Oni Lloyd on the dragon, where now it's combining the two natures, keeping each other in check, in balance, so that they can defeat the Overlord, who is trying to destroy the balance.
Which, that would have been cool. Also, Lloyd is part dragon, too.
Yep. So
he's, like, kind of a bit of everything, so it's like, technically he's the representation of balance.
But it could have been like Lloyd channels the only side, they channel the dragon side, and then that's why it works, is because now both powers with the balance, nothing can actually counter them at that point. That would have completely played into the themes of Ninjago. But they didn't do that. They just seemed to really rush through it. And the end, okay, yeah, let's talk about the Overlord some more, because we haven't really actually talked about him too much. So, they did establish, and I mean, this is kind of something that's been implied, the Overlord can't really be destroyed. I think we always kind of knew that, because, first off, he came back one season later. It just took a year for his first, which is wonder why Wu said he didn't think the Overlord would come back for several generations. He came back right away after the final battle.
Because I think, like, with the Overlord in, Rebooted, part of that is him coming through a digital way,
true.
And that wasn't, like, completely physically manifested yet. And he had to make himself, like, physical form afterwards.
Yeah, he did use the golden power at that point. And I like the idea of the Overlord continually coming back. And a lot of people think there should have been a way to permanently defeat him. You know what? I actually think it's cool, again, and if they would have emphasized it, would have been better. The idea is the Overlord can't be defeated, but that's okay, because then the ninja would start training the next generations. So there'd always be... Because that's remember what they said at the end of... the final battle originally, which is now called Rise of the Green Ninja or whatever, or Legacy of the Green Ninja. But Kai said in the end is if the Overlord ever shows its face again, we'll be around, because there will always be need for... That was a much more actually impactful way of saying at the end. Like, and people, what if they're saying, but he'll just come back again? But then they could have even like taken Nelson or that other, or Jake and stuff like that, and said, look, then someday it'll be your guys' turn to fight this. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Again, and it's also kind of an ending that could be implied is in there. Maybe that's why they did it. It's just not a decision I think was good. So you can kind of draw your own conclusions from how it turns out. They just could have done better to actually put that forward. So I like the idea of him continually coming back. Also, a good bit of lore drop in this season. Again, something that's been highly speculated, and Tommy might have already said on Twitter, but I don't take tweets as definitive on their own, that the Great Devourer was something that was put in play by the Overlord. it was one of his manifestations, basically. Not directly, but like something that he created to do his bidding. And that's cool. We already talked about how that goes into Harumi and her redemption arc, and it was rushed and weird, but I think it works better than some other things in this season. So now we actually have something more definitive.
I feel like,
go ahead.
of all things that were rushed in this season, Harumi, like, at least you can kind of see her struggling throughout the entirety, like, even from the get-go. Like,
it's
she
just
doesn't
some of the
even
other
want
weird
to serve.
deception moments in the jungle, especially that throw it off, I think.
Yeah, but, like, even from, like, the beginning when she's resurrected, it's like, oh, you're the Overlord, I really don't want to help you out. It's just him convincing her, like, oh, no, I know what's best, let's destroy balance so we can stop fighting. No more death is necessary after that. It's like, okay, yeah, I can get that. You're probably gonna win, you're right. And she still doesn't, like, fully embrace everything he's doing. She's still, like, on the fence about, she still wants Lloyd to change sides instead of, like, kill him, that sort of thing, and it's just like, okay, I can see where this is going.
Again, it's, I think,
And
actually
then
very good ideas that just could have been smoothed a bit more.
Everything could have been smoothed in this season, unfortunately. Yeah. It's just like...
Except for Fugidove, he was perfect.
Yeah, it's true.
So, yeah, and so that part, yeah, I can agree. That was, I think, a lot of people seem to really hate that. I think it was one of the better done sections of this season. But, so yeah, I like the idea of the Overlord continually coming back. I just think, again, it could have been handled a little bit better. Also, this season had great music and brought up motifs from throughout the series really well. The final battle music, there wasn't that great... got great musical beat at the end for, like, that final blow, like we had for other ones. Think about, again, Rise of the Spinjitzu Master, or Rebooted, which is the best Ninjago finale. And, you know, you have that great musical moment where everything really builds up and then just explodes in the end, where there's actually a cool battle. There's some cool fight choreography towards the end, but it doesn't feel the force of it.
I don't think the music even would have helped because, again, of how rushed it was. Like,
part of it could have at least made it on par with the final battle in season 2, because the final battle in season 2 has some big issues as well. I do like,
but I feel like that one still was a bit more definitive. At least,
the end. That's the thing. That what capped it off was great.
Yeah,
it was really rough leading up to that. If you remember some of the really weak feeling hits and punches they have at the end of that season, the really clunky dialogue.
Listen, it's been years since I've watched that sort of stuff, and it's just like, yeah, I can't say particularly.
I went back and watched it fairly recently, and that always had some issues to me. And so, again, if you would have combined parts of that, parts of March of the Oni, and parts of this, which are like the 3 definitive big bad ending sort of things to Ninjago, you would have had the perfect finale. But, let's talk a little bit about that then. So, the ending after this comes, it was exactly like Penn said it would be on the other podcast, which I like I said, I fully expected it would kind of be. Now, this also goes into why we've spent a lot of this criticizing this season. I had a lot of fun watching this, though, honestly. Like, I did not feel bored or like it was hard to get through at all. I felt like there were still a lot of moments of tension, a lot of moments where I didn't know exactly what they were going to do. There's a lot of good humor, a lot of good character moments. So it was still very enjoyable despite all of the flaws here. And I think the reason that I came out on top, because you remember this, I was really worried that they were going to screw up majorly.
Yeah. Which it's a weird thing to say, oh, I'm just glad that they didn't, like, completely destroy everything.
I don't think it's that weird, because put in perspective, this has been going on 11 years. What goes on 11 years without the writers completely destroying it? Not much.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why I was just like, and I think I mentioned this briefly on the last episode of Pen. I don't want to do it because Ninjago is continuing, but maybe not like this, basically, in the future. So you don't know if it's a full reboot, partial reboot, what. But no matter what, this is the end. And if they're gonna do a hard reboot, okay, we've reconnected. That was weird. Okay, so I was saying, so hopefully we didn't lose too much on there. I was explaining my theory about the worst case scenario with the Weekend Whip, where if they went back and rewound the timeline to a point where things start over but are different, and they use like the golden weapons, which are the point of all creation. What if they're like, oh, the only way to defeat the Overlord is to remake creation? That's the ending I feared. Luckily, they were too big of a coward to do that. They really didn't change anything by the end. I believe the quote I heard from, and I wish I could credit whoever said this, but I forgot who it was, aggressively maintaining the status quo, which is fair. But I'm just happy they didn't. We're ended at a place where a lot was given closure, not extreme closure, but it also implied a lot how it could go on from here. So we're ending in a place where things are very happy for Ninjago, and I like happy endings, so that's why I was happy with it. Now, there could have been some things they used to make it a little bit more impactful, add a little bit of bittersweetness to it. Like, one of the big things brought up is Wu and Garmadon. It would have been a good time to kill both of them off, actually. I'm wondering if the reason they didn't kill anyone off is because there were some corporate mandates. They're saying, like, look, we're going to be rebooting this. We don't want to confuse kids by bringing back characters that were just dead, even though they're going to be completely different characters. We don't want to have to explain that. We're just hoping they don't think that far.
Yeah, if there was any time to kill people, it was this season.
I don't agree with some people, like some of the ninja should have died for anything. I can see why, for this type of thing, you don't really want to kill off your main character. But,
especially when they keep bringing back the main character. Like, if they kill off a ninja, they need to immediately bring them back the next season. Otherwise, it just, it doesn't work for them, apparently.
But yeah, definitely I feel like Wu and Garmadon. And also I thought of this really great ending that would have made a good definitive bittersweet thing. As you remember, again, March of the Oni had a very good ending, and I want to talk about all the other endings in just a bit. But where you see Lloyd meeting the first Spinjitzu master, when it was actually, even though nothing happens, it was this very impactful moment of Lloyd could die, but he chose to go back with his friends. What if for the end of this, Wu and Garmadon did die in those moments where their deaths were faked out in this season, and then the last thing you see is that they go back with their father on that dragon where he, that he offered to take Lloyd on then. Where they're finally able to be together with their family after all that time. That would have been a very bittersweet, but very happy ending, I think, for it. And that would have been the end of the story, was the end of Wu and Garmadon's battle once and for all.
Yeah. And I think so. My overall thoughts when I at least initially watched it, it's a weak ending. It's okay as just like if it were a season finale and there was just more to come. No, this is it.
Yeah.
This is like, and it's not a good series finale.
But again,
they have done points where they thought this is a series finale. Let's go forward. Let's finish this off. Yeah. This is just like...
Yeah, we'll get back to those points. Things that are better. Though, there is certain things where... Okay, I guess I was going to say, there are certain things like, we're watching Lost right now, and you've yet to form an opinion on the ending yourself. But the general... A lot of people did not like the ending of Lost, and it kind of hurt the show retroactively to them. In fact, we should probably do a podcast on that when we finish the show with Mace. I think that'd be cool, because we can talk about it in relation to Ninjago, even. But there are other
Lost
shows where
has
it feels like,
many similarities.
like shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which we still really like and have not finished either, but where they start to actually kind of feels like they start to hurt the show as it went on, like hurt parts of the legacy as it went on. Ninjago never did reach that point, and I'm very happy about that.
In fact, it only grew better the more time it's had to grow.
Yeah, some things definitely grew old, and there are some low points, but no, there's always good stuff consistently to the end, and nothing ever felt like it was detrimental to overall. I think the worst part, the thing it did the worst was that it was afraid to change at certain points.
Also, the island.
Yeah. But even the island, at least the island is just like a bad arc. It hurts Ronan, and I can't forgive that. But also, oh yeah, Dareth shows up at the end, so at least there's that. If Dareth didn't get to speak in the last 2 minutes of Ninjago, well, I might not be here today. So, yeah. Dareth got a good amount of spotlight in the season, mostly in the first half, but you know what? That's how Dareth works best. So
I don't know, Dareth was crucial in, like, the final battle.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
Season 2.
I'm also meant, like, you can't oversaturate Dareth or he's going to lose his charm.
Yeah, that's fair.
They've always known how to handle Dareth really well, and I'm glad. I like Dareth. Dareth's the best part. If only he was in a set.
I mean, he is?
I mean, one of these final sets.
Oh, okay.
If they reboot Ninjago, will Dareth be in the reboot?
No, he won't be.
Oh, boy.
He's exclusive to the main timeline.
Dareth is actually like the anomaly that sets apart G1 from every other timeline.
You could say he's one of a kind.
But, darn, I feel like I had another point there. So, yeah. It was still... Also, they using the Inner Steel song. I know, like, we talked about Penn. He really liked that and everything. I saw... Did you see I retweeted something where someone put the actual Ninjago Overture over the end?
I did not.
Well, yeah, actually, I'm not gonna play it on the stream here because they'll probably strike us, but let me link it to you so you can watch it while I ramble on about something.
Cool.
Boy, desktop Twitter sucks.
Yeah. That can be agreed upon.
Oh, darn, the tweet is unavailable now, I guess. Oh, no, now it is showing when I click on it directly. It just says tweet is unavailable in my quoted tweet. So I will link this to you in our podcast chat. Anyone else can go and check out my Twitter. I should see it retweeted on here. That's at BCC_LQ1998. But yeah, I really like how, and feel free to deafen yourself while you listen to that so you can get the full impact, but I really like how that actually has a callback to the very beginning of Ninjago versus Inner Steel, which was just put in this season, and the whole arc with that girl whose name I already forget was one of the bits of filler that I think could have been used to better flesh out some of these elements in the finale instead. So I'd say that was actually one of the places where the ball was certainly dropped on this season. And I feel like the impact of the end might have had just a little bit more of a punch if they had used that original overture. But like the person in the tweet says, with a little bit of a new version of it. But it still feels very much like the original. That's something I liked about Sons of Garmadon a lot as well, is the musical callbacks. Like, there's this little string and flute instrumentation they used during the track called The Tornado of Recreation in March of the Oni. And that's what I meant to say earlier, not Sons of Garmadon, March of the Oni. That is really great, because it calls back to those original pilots that had felt long forgotten. And I wish they would have done something a little bit more like that here. You back, Kevin?
Yep, I'm here.
What do you think of it?
I like it better.
I do too.
Way.
Now, again, not that it was offensively bad. That's this whole season. Nothing is offensively bad, even though some people certainly seem to take offense. That's how I feel. Nothing was offensively bad. You can just
It
see...
wasn't the island.
Yeah, it was not the island. The island is offensively bad. There's just a lot of stuff that could have been better, like the ending. It was fine, but even just a few little tweaks could have made it that much better.
Yeah, and I don't know why it feels like the whole season was rushed, and yeah, they were given a lot more episodes to flesh out this story, but it feels like a lot of them were ill-used because of how they wanted to split it up, and they're like, okay, yeah, we want this big reveal moment, let's like meditate on that before we get into second part of the season. Second part of the season has all the great like story beats basically of the season, and
the first part was still very good. It just has filler that doesn't needed.
Yeah, but like in retrospective, it's like they had this certain amount of episodes, and it was a bigger amount of episodes than they usually have. Okay, let's use that to like really make a smooth experience. Let's focus on characters. Let's focus on like the action. Let's focus on like everything. Make sure everything works really well. But it doesn't, because half those episodes were dedicated to the ninja being in jail again.
So yeah, last thing I want to do on this episode, again, we've touched on this a lot, like Ninjago's had several finales, but this is, again, I don't know all the details, but things people have told me outside of it, kind of behind the scenes from multiple people, and what's been implied by multiple people, this is definitely the end of how it is. If it's going to try and connect to the new narrative in the future, who knows? But this is an end. And you know, part of me, I'm happy to have an end. Because it's better to have something end and still be good. Okay, I know some people out there think it wasn't good at this point, but I think it was good. And rather than have it go on so long that they feel need to push a major change that does hurt it. So I'm happy to have an end, and I am satisfied if this is truly the end. How do you feel about it, if it is truly the end?
Well, you know, part of me, of course, is going to be a little sad because this show has been... Yeah, this show has been, like, constant for 11 years. Yeah.
Isn't that
just
how long Brad's wife worked at Cracker Barrel?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Wow.
And it's just like, you know, okay, you feel that's something that is like almost an anchor, but I do feel like, okay, now that's over, and the type of end it is, too. It feels like it is an open-ended ending. It doesn't feel like definitively the end because, okay, let's say next series somehow does continue in this universe but doesn't continue this story, or it could reboot. They could do whatever they want at this point. Like, if they decide to revisit this, it's still open to revisit, but that's not likely, you know? So it's like, with what's gonna happen, I'm excited to hear what they have in store for the next series. If it's just a reboot, that'll suck, but...
Oh, I'm not excited at all. I've already kind of given up on it. I don't know. They're gonna have to earn me back at this point. Like, I want to hold on to having a happy ending. So
yeah.
If they want me to get invested again, they've got to do something, and I feel like they might be trying to target a younger audience, in which case I'm not even sure they want my investment. So we'll see. I'm happy with ending it here if need be, because I'm not going to just follow something for the sake of following it. They've got to give me something good. Because Ninjago, for all its faults, for 11 years, was good. Wasn't always great. Sometimes it was very great. But it never went
Sometimes
below...
it was the island.
Good. But yeah, the island is short. Okay. And it had good sets. But so yeah, there's other finales like and that's another thing is I think I went into this like I still consider season 2 like the pinnacle of the Ninjago story, of the history of Ninjago. That was still the ultimate deciding battle. And ever since that day, I kind of looked at everything as an epilogue to it, which I think also kind of affects my viewpoint and what I expect out of a season. I still saw that as the end of the Ninjago story, and after that point, everything was just the rest of the ninjas' lives. March of the Oni and the whole Oni trilogy kind of matches that almost, because it's another threat that's inside a wider universe lore. And we watched it again since my initial reaction to it, and I've watched it again since then. And March of the Oni, for its flaws and mostly having to do where it's very short, I think, it's a very good ending to that arc. And one of the best endings to Ninjago also, which has a very similar ending where it has all of their friends around there in, like the temple area, the monastery area with the mural and everything, and it looks really nice, and I loved the Will Film animation. Rest in peace, Will Film. And I thought that was a very great ending as well, especially, it actually mirrors this ending very, very closely. I just felt like it had a little bit more of emotional impact, because even as the certain thing where you don't know what people are going to do, it gives a bit more of an optimistic look at Garmadon this time. But that was also kind of the look it got before, with Garmadon leaving. This time he's still there, though it is strange they choose to keep the Oni form. I kind of would have liked to see a Sensei form come back, but he could just choose to channel the Oni form if they're going to keep him alive. But that's neither here nor there, really. Overall, it's very much the same type of thing. It just felt a little bit more impactful for March of the Oni, especially because the big bad of the Oni felt a little bit bigger than another resurrection of the Overlord at this point. Even though the Oni were horribly not developed. Imagine combining, again, March of the Oni and this season. Would have been perfect.
It could have been, but...
And even, again, I'd find endings like... Rebooted, I think, was a stronger ending emotionally. I also think that Tournament of Elements was a stronger ending emotionally. I'm trying to think if there were any other big... And even Seabound, actually, I feel like was a little bit more impactful. What the impact of this one comes from is going in there knowing this is the end.
Just going back 2 steps, I guess. You said, oh, March of the Oni was more impactful. I think that for its flaws is the fact that it didn't have the time to develop everything they wanted to.
And it didn't have sets either.
Yeah. But it had the writing. It had everything smoothed out with that, basically, to where it was more impactful with that. This had the time, but it did not have the same level of writing, unfortunately. And that's where its flaws come in. So, yeah, if we combined writing March of the Oni, the time of this season, it could have been a very smooth, very, definitive end.
And we're going to do more episodes about this in the future. I'd like to talk specifically about where we would like these stories that were left off, theoretically what our headcanons would be for best case scenario, because that's a good, and there's part of that I can respect. It leaves it open for you to put your best ending into the show. That's not the best way to do it, but there is something to that where, again, it allows you to have a certain piece with it, at least for me. So we'll talk about that also once Ford and Mace have seen it. And maybe someday Leo, who is still in the middle of Sons of Garmadon. We'll talk about that some more. We'll have some guests on and talk about some more opposing views of it. We're going to still talk about Ninjago for a very long time to come. That being said, be sure to leave your thoughts on this season in the comments below. We will certainly address other viewpoints in future episodes, like I said. Be sure to like and share this video. If you, for some reason, have not watched this or have not watched Ninjago overall yet, go ahead and go watch it. I still think it's a great watch to go all the way through. Though at this point, it might not be your thing. Just still watch it anyways. I like it. There are a lot of great things in Ninjago. We will see what the future holds. In fact, we should be seeing next year's sets pretty soon. In fact, I have a theory that we're not going to have too many of them. I know there's some polybag lists leaked out there. Also, tune in next Monday where we're going to be discussing what's happening next year with Lego Lord of the Rings returning, Indiana Jones returning, and Bionicle returning. That's going to be an interesting episode. Next year is going to be an interesting year. We'll see what Lego does with it all. Every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Central Time, or Eastern Standard Time, is our normal podcast time. Finally, outro music cued here. I apologize for the audio episodes earlier in it. This is not a normal setup for us. This is an impromptu episode, which we do every so often. Be sure to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell if you want updates on all of that. So, for Malaris and myself, LQ, thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.